Psalm 46 verse 1. God is our refuge and strength, a very ready help in trouble. Psalm 46 verse 1 is one of the most comforting verses in the entire Bible because it speaks directly into fear, anxiety, uncertainty, loss, stress, and moments when life feels unstable. Even though this psalm was written thousands of years ago, its message feels incredibly relevant today because the world is still filled with trouble. People struggle with fear about the future, financial pressure, broken relationships, loneliness, illness, war, depression, disappointment, and emotional exhaustion. This verse reminds us that God has not disappeared in the middle of human suffering. He is present, active, strong, and available. The verse begins with the words, "God is our refuge." A refuge is a place of safety during danger. In ancient times, a refuge was often a fortress or shelter where people could run when enemies attacked or storms came. Spiritually speaking, God Himself becomes that safe place. The verse does not say that trouble will never happen. It says that in the middle of trouble, God is our refuge. That is important because many people think faith means a trouble-free life. The Bible never promises that Christians will avoid pain. Jesus Himself warned that there would be difficulties in this world. What God promises is His presence during those difficulties. When everything around you feels unstable, God remains stable. When people fail you, God remains faithful. When emotions become overwhelming, God remains strong. The next part says that God is our strength. Sometimes life drains people emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually. There are moments when people simply feel exhausted from carrying burdens for too long. You can smile on the outside while feeling completely worn out on the inside. This verse reminds believers that strength does not ultimately come from human ability alone. God gives strength to continue when you feel weak. That does not always mean God instantly removes the problem. Sometimes His strength is shown by helping someone endure the storm instead of immediately ending it. A person may still face sickness, grief, rejection, or uncertainty, but somehow God gives enough peace, endurance, wisdom, and courage to keep moving forward. Many believers can look back at difficult seasons and honestly say, "I do not know how I survived that, except that God carried me through it." Then the verse says God is a very ready help in trouble. The NASB wording is powerful because it emphasizes that God is not distant or slow to respond. He is very ready. That means God is not unaware of your situation. He does not abandon His people when life becomes difficult. He is near. Today, many people feel alone even when surrounded by others. Social media creates connection on the surface. Psalm 46:1 reminds us that God is not absent from those hidden struggles. He sees every tear, every sleepless night, every prayer whispered in exhaustion, and every burden people carry silently. This verse also speaks into the fear that comes from the instability of the modern world. Economies change, governments change, technology changes rapidly, relationships change. Health can change overnight. Human security is fragile. Psalm 46 reminds believers that true security is not found in money, politics, popularity, or personal control. It is found in God. The beautiful thing about this verse is that it applies to every kind of trouble. For one person, trouble may be financial hardship. For another, it may be heartbreak, fear, depression, illness, family conflict, or spiritual discouragement. Whatever the situation is, God invites people to run toward Him instead of away from Him. Sometimes people think they must become strong before coming to God, but Scripture teaches the opposite. God often meets people most deeply in their weakness. That is why prayer matters so much during difficult times. Prayer is not merely religious activity, it is running to the refuge. Psalm 46 as a whole continues with themes of chaos, shaking nations, and instability, yet the central message remains that God is greater than the chaos. Even when the world feels like it is falling apart, God is still on the throne. For believers today, Psalm 46:1 is not merely poetic language. It is a promise of God's character. He is a refuge when life hurts. He is strength when people feel weak. He is present when people feel abandoned, and He is always ready to help those who call upon Him.